Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, CesarRespino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, CesarRespino, and today I have a special guest. He is a dentist, a husband, father, keynote speaker, elite success coach, author, pilot, mountain climber, and recovering triathlete. In his second half of life, he is committed to helping people shorten the distance to becoming their best version and learning to win the now. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Eric Recker. Hey, doctor, how are you?
I'm doing great, Caesar. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. Wow, you definitely have a lot of things going on for you, and have accomplished a lot, right? So before we dive into that, though, tell me a little bit about your upbringing and where are you originally from?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Iowa, southeast of Des Moines, called Pella. So if you've ever heard of Pella Windows, that's us.
Ah,
And so one of my earliest memories was being on the recess playground. And I don't know about you, but in our small town in Iowa in the early 80s, recess kickball was life. Being able to play kickball on the recess playground was a big deal. And I experienced some bullying when I was growing up. So I was told that I wasn't good enough and that I couldn't play. Would have been one thing if I was told that I was going to be picked last, but when I was told I couldn't play at all, that was devastating, and it happened a lot. And so I remember when I was in third grade standing on the sideline of that recess kickball field, and I made a pact with myself. And I said, I am going to be so freaking good at everything that I ever do that nobody will ever not pick me. So that's kind of the basis for where my journey of overcompensating and not believing that I was good enough kind of started.
you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that the fact that sometimes, you know, while it is not the is not a good thing or is definitely not what we expect or want. It's interesting how sometimes, you know, in your case, because somebody didn't believe in you or X, Y, Z reason that they just didn't think you can make it, that actually empower you, right? As you mentioned, to be able to say, you know what, because of that, thanks. And while maybe I've been bullied and I'm going through all of this, and I'm definitely learning some lessons, thanks to that, it really gave you the ammunition or empowerment to be able to say, you know what, I'm never gonna let this happen again. I'm going to prove not only them, I'm gonna prove myself that I'm better than that. Where do you think that came about? Because obviously, there, as you know, there's two kinds of people, right? There's the ones that utilize that and that field to be able to say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to improve them, or other, on the other hand, will really affect them and they stay down, right?
Yeah, and you nailed it. That's the split. You choose one of two ways. I don't think anybody just goes in the middle. It's either I'm going to go hard or I'm not going to go at all. And I went hard. The problem is I way overcompensated when I went hard. So I did running all the way through marathon. I did triathlon all the way through Ironman, climbing mountains, all of this, still trying to prove to those bullies that I was good enough. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but that's what I was doing. I was trying to prove to those people that I was good enough. And it took really just about crashing and burning with burnout. I had all this stuff. I had the chest pain, heart palpitations, panic attacks. I had all of that. And I realized if I didn't get this reined in, if I didn't understand what was behind this, then I was going to become a statistic. And I did not want to become a statistic for my family. I love my family. I want to spend as much time with them as I can, but something had to change.
Yeah. Talking about that, even the fact that you went out and did all of this to try to prove to, the bullies, seeing it now, the way you see it now, do you think that you are actually doing that to prove them, or you're doing that to prove yourself, right? And actually through that journey.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. It's
Okay.
only been within maybe the last 5 years of my life that I've realized what I was trying to do, how I was trying to prove everybody right. And I just started to wrap my head around the fact that if everybody kept saying, "Oh man, you're crazy. Why are you doing all this stuff? Man, it's so much." I started to realize that it was a lot. And maybe I didn't need all of those things to help define me, to help solidify my identity. I saw my identity in what I had achieved. And
Mm-hmm.
while that's not all bad, it's bad if it's the main part of your identity. And I think we get in trouble when we put all of our identity into one part of who we are. Uh, I'm a dentist. That's one thing that I do. I'm a speaker and coach and author. Those are other things that I do. All those other things that I've experienced, but I'm also a husband. I'm a father. I'm a friend. I'm a lot of those different things. And I think one thing that we're really struggling with in society is we pick one part of our life and we put all of our identity into that. And when something's not going right with that, then everything is off in our lives. But if we live more of a balanced life where we understand that we are the sum of a lot of parts, and we make sure that those parts are in a good place, then we're much more likely to be successful and to feel fulfilled.
Yeah. Talking about balance, and that's it can go multiple different ways, and obviously that is a huge thing, and you always hear the idea of work and life balance, or personal and professional life balance, right? And be able to get that. Um, how do you go about finding that balance? Number one. Number two, you talked about all these different things that you have going on, right? Dentist, author, speaker, coach, all these different things. Did you do you have to find and or focus on all the things you're doing, that they're all kind of intertwined, so that the is a much easier balance to handle, versus doing things from all different angles that maybe they have nothing, no relationship between one or the other.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed is when I was so busy with all of that stuff, and in the busiest season when burnout was, when I first noticed that I had a problem with burnout, I had just bought my dental practice for my father. I was building a new dental clinic for us to practice in, and that was all on me. I was training for 2 Ironman triathlons. I was coaching both of my kids in soccer, and I was on 5 boards all at the same time. And just like the frog in the boiling pot of water who got in there when it was nice and cool, and then the temperature slowly ramped up, as these things kept adding, I didn't realize that it was too much until it was too much. And so my life was kind of this choreographed dance or this chess game of how do I move the pieces around so everything fits together so that I can make everything work. So there wasn't really any balance. There wasn't any, it was my whole life was out of balance. And a lot of times I found that I was borrowing my extra time from sleep, which is a terrible thing to do. And so I was probably sleeping 5 hours a night, maybe six some nights. But when I was home, I wasn't really there. I was thinking about the other things I had to do. And when I was doing other things, I was thinking about how I wasn't doing my best at home. So the problem was, I was rarely in the same place, mind and body. And that's where I really got in trouble.
Yeah, it reminds me of Jim Rohn talking about doing a speech, and he talked about, while I'm at work, I'm thinking of vacation, so I'm not focused with work. When I'm at, or going to the beach or something like that, then I'm at the beach or on vacation, and I'm thinking about work, and I'm not focused there, right? And that happens a lot, right? I mean, a lot of times we're in this society where, we're driven by different external factors, and based on that, we tend to reduce our focus. Um, Tell me about so I have here in my notes, and I love this. And you said you have the importance of living your life in the present moment, right? And I know this is part of the journey that you're talking about, that you kind of recognize that. Tell me more about that and its meaning, because I think that's huge.
Yeah, so I think Most people, if they're honest with themselves, they are either stuck in the past or worried about the future most of the time in their life. Something in their past continues to haunt them. They give it bandwidth and they don't deal with it, and it's there. Or we're worried about the future. We're worried about tomorrow. We're worried about a relationship. We're worried about all of these things. And when we're in one of those two places, we miss the most important thing, and that's the now. That's the moment right in front of us. And the more time that we spend apart from the now, the more we're going to struggle. And I've seen that in my life. I've seen it play out countless times. And even though I'm learning this concept of living my life in the now, I still drift. I still have to have those boundaries on the side of the road that if I bump my car into them, they kind of steer me back into the middle of the path. I need to know what those guardrails are. So that's where the concept of win the now came from. And it's a way to live our life in the present moment and also a way to grab wins in those moments. So first thing I coach people to do is to break your life down into what are the different now moments in your life. So right now, for this 45 minutes to an hour, Caesar, my now is hanging out with you.
Mhm.
And what does a win look like in that? It looks like us having a great conversation,
Yeah.
adding value to your listeners, giving people some hope when they're feeling stuck, helping people believe that here's another thing that they can overcome. That's what a win looks like. Later today, I have a couple of coaching clients that I'm going to meet with. And during that time, a win for me looks like being a great listener, reflecting back to them what's going on, helping them on their journey, helping them move forward. Later tonight, my son is coming home from college, and my wife and my son and I are going to be sitting together at the dinner table. What does a win look like during that time? Well, it looks like our phones are in our pockets. We're asking good questions to each other. We're experiencing time with each other. We're sharing a meal. I think being around a dinner table is one of the most, it's one of the best simple pleasures that we get because we get to engage all five of our senses. How can we be present and do all of that instead of worrying about what work looks like tomorrow, the bad things that happened at work today? So it's just a mindset to try to get you into that moment, and it all starts with awareness that a lot of the times we're not there.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned, and I like the idea of being present and being in the now moment. And one of the things that I've learned myself too is that, as you mentioned, we tend to either be too much on the past, and we keep going back to that story. And while I'm not a relationship coach, I always said the best relationship advice that I can give you is make sure that you don't cheat on your future with your past, because oftentimes we're on that idea, right? We're thinking so much about the past that while we do that, we forget about being in this present moment, that we know that whatever we do today is going to impact our tomorrow, right? And so again, for me, one of the things that I've learned is, while the past is important in many different elements, all we can do though is be able to look at, okay, what took place, what are the it's an educational experience, right? What kind of lessons can I extract from that, so that I don't do it again, or if it went well, I can do more of that, right? And really honing on that idea. And then, as you mentioned, I like the idea of be present now, right? Because I do believe that, as we're doing this interview, as we're talking, I also believe that our today will determine the quality of life that we have tomorrow, and that's based on the decisions and choices that we make today, and the now moment. The challenge is, though, is that people, unfortunately, are afraid to make that choice or are afraid to make that decision. And even if they make the decision, I believe that the second challenge to that is that uh, they probably don't recognize, or consciously do not recognize, that they can, if they feel like they made a wrong decision, consciously they can pivot and make a new decision instead of getting stuck with that decision, right? And so there's a couple of different things that is going on in our society right now with all of those different things and elements. Um, Talking about winning the now, or in the moment now, do you visualize, or do you try to, obviously you gave me, like, for instance, all your day to day, you're kind of already seeing where you want to be, what are you going to do in this podcast, your coaching clients, your family, like you have this kind of laid out. Do you do that like every morning, to try to kind of paint the picture for your day to day, or how does that go about for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times on Sunday, I like to kind of map out my week. So when I can, try to realize, okay, here's where I'm going to have discretionary time. Here's where I have scheduled time. And here's the things I need to get done. Okay, I'm going to try to put these in these places. Now, other urgencies are probably going to come up and that's going to get shuffled around. But I like to have kind of a framework to look at. Like for today, this is my day today. I have it on a big legal pad piece of
Mm,
paper. All the meetings I have, a couple details for each of those meetings, because I don't want to do you a disservice and come in here blind to, okay, who is this I'm meeting with and what's their podcast about?
right.
I like to be able to do that. And this morning I looked over everything one more time for what I had planned out, and there were a couple things that had to shuffle around. I had one meeting that somebody had to reschedule, and I could mourn that, but now I look at that as, wow, I was not going to have that time. Now I have that time. Here's my list of priorities that I need to get taken care of. And I just take one of those and slide it right into that time, and that time is going to be super productive instead of, oh man, what do I do with the time? Oh, what's on Facebook? What's on
Yeah.
LinkedIn? What's on all of that, which is default what we do most of the time.
Yeah, and talking about that, and when you were talking about also having the moment with your family and sitting on the table and the phones put away, I love that. I mean, I wish we can do more of that, and I do believe that that's critical because I think that we've lost the element of human connection or being able to, as you mentioned, utilizing all of our senses and be connected, being connected. Oftentimes, I feel now that it's funny. I go to a restaurant and I see this family sitting around the table and everybody in that family, for the most part, are on their phone. Whether they're playing, games, or they're on social media or texting, they're not plugged in, right? And I think that we're lost a little bit of that element. And so, what would be an advice that you can give in terms of that? Because I think that's huge. Uh, and I know we're in a very rapid, social media world type of aspect, and our technology has advanced a lot in the last 30, 40 years. I remember growing up as a kid, like if I wanted to go play with my friends, it wasn't Xbox or any of that. It's like go out and play soccer or go out into the park or something, right? And that also creates, in my opinion, isolation, and people do not know how to have social skills and that kind of stuff. So what would be your advice for people that, again, maybe are listening to that, and maybe they need some tips in terms of that?
Yeah, it's tough because COVID's still really fresh in our mind. And COVID taught us that other people are toxic. We have to stay away from other people. The reality is that we're better together. We are better in relationships. And we have bought the lie that we are more connected because of social media. Yes, we can stay in touch with more people, but we are not more connected. There isn't anything that can happen on social media that beats a coffee time with a friend. There's nothing on social media that beats a one-on-one conversation. I'm going to struggle to find anything on social media that can compete with the conversation that we're having right now, Caesar.
Right.
This is where the action is in the present moment. And so one of the things, especially when we're around our family, when we're around our people, when we're around opportunities to have conversations, and the phone is in our pockets, and it seems like if we get 5 seconds of maybe even 3 seconds of a little bit of lull or boredom, we're reaching for that phone right away. I would encourage people to just ask, why am I picking this up? Just having that one guardrail on their phone time. Why am I picking this up? What's the purpose of having the phone? Are you just going to pick it up and have it be your digital pacifier? You just need a little dopamine. You're feeling a little uneasy. You just need to calm down a little bit. Is that what it's for? Or is there a purpose? Oh, I'm trying to specifically look this up or send this reply or whatever you're trying to do. So I like to put that guardrail on,
Mm.
and I like to try to have at least one meaningful connection with a friend or a new connection every single week. So this morning I had two 30-minute connection calls where it was people that I didn't know, but our paths have crossed virtually a couple times. I said, hey, why don't we just get together for a virtual coffee for 30 minutes? And man, it was amazing how that started the day off. just being able to do that. So I think we have to find ways to get human connection back into our lives.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's huge. Tell me about how you came about. So you're a dentist. You bought that practice from your father. How did the coaching come into play into your life?
Yeah, so I got within about 2 months of selling my dental practice and walking away because the burnout was so bad.
Mm.
I had one time where I was on the floor in the server room in our office where the computers are, and I was just having a panic attack on the floor. I was paralyzed, and I was 30 minutes behind in my schedule, and I had five hygienists waiting for me for checks, and it was only 9:30 in the morning, and I had to drag myself up off the ground. There's a song by one of my favorite groups called Switchfoot, and one of the lines in there is "I dare you to pick yourself up off the ground." And that line struck me. I'm like, I got to. I don't care how bad this is right now. I just have to do this. And so what I was trying to do is I was trying to go around the burnout. Selling my practice and walking away would have just been going around the problem. It would have met me wherever I ended up being. And so when it didn't work out to sell my practice because my associate who was going to buy it from me was in a horrific car accident, we weren't able to complete that transaction. So I had to pivot, and I had to decide, okay, what do I want to do with this life? I'm here now. How can I make the best of it? So now I have a partner in my practice. He bought half my practice. We're 50-50 partners. And part of the deal with that was as soon as he bought the practice, I was going to start seeing patients 3 days a week. And then on the other days, I was going to use this volume of experience that I've had in my life and help walk with other people on their journeys. Because I don't want to get to the end of my life and be on my deathbed and have a regret that I didn't share the lessons that I've learned in my journey with other people.
Yeah, no, that's huge. So you were being coached by somebody at one point, or and then that's where you decided like I want to do this and do the same thing and impact other people's lives.
Exactly. Because I think there are a ton of people, there's probably a lot of people who are even listening to your podcast who are struggling with some level of burnout,
Yeah,
some level of disillusionment, a level of, boy, I'm here. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing, but it doesn't make any sense and I need some help. I love to meet people in that space,
yeah,
help get some things figured out and get people on a track where they're living a life that they don't feel like they need to wake up from it.
yeah, for sure. Let's talk about your book. How did that come about?
Yeah, so the book came about when COVID hit. I had to close my dental practice. That was uncharted territory for me. I had never been really good with discretionary time because all
Uh-huh.
my time was always scheduled by the 15 minute. It was just like that, moved down the schedule. That's how my days went. So I had something that was uncommon for me, and that was discretionary time. So I made a deal with myself that until my dental practice opened, I would spend 30 minutes in quiet every single day. And I crashed and burned the first couple days. The first day, I thought, man, I got to be getting close. I looked at my watch and I was literally 46 seconds into my 30 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
So it took a long time to get into that, but I would set an alarm, I would focus on breathing, and I would just spend time in quiet. And from there, I started journaling a lot. That quiet led to much more productive thoughts than what I had had when I was always zoned out. So I created that space that allowed me to have some thoughts, and I started journaling. And then the journaling led to thinking of a term called the false sense of urgency. And what that false sense of urgency is it's like a background app in our brain. So we all have apps that are running on our phone all the time. You know, we swipe up to clear them out. But this app is always running in our brains. And what the false sense of urgency tells us is that we can't sit still. All our time has to be productive. Everything we do has to be accounted for, and it all has to have meaning. And the reality is sometimes we just need time to rest. Sometimes we just need time to relax, to recharge. And so we have to figure out how to quiet down that false sense of urgency app that's running in our minds. And so that's what the book is about. And the biggest antidote to the false sense of urgency, because it's always dealing with the term should, if we get ourselves back in the present, we don't have to worry as much about that. We can be more focused on what's right in front of us. And it talks about a bunch of different practices to help keep us in the moment and ways to become better versions of ourselves.
Yeah, I love that, and I love the idea or the fact that you implemented this habit, right? And or like Tony Robbins refers to them as rituals, right? Where you created something for yourself. Would you say that even just setting the 30 minutes aside was your original intention just to kind of be in a quiet mode, and then from there things and ideas came about, like that quiet time led to, okay, now I gotta journal, now I gotta, and your mind started, being more clear and focused in terms of some of the things you wanted to do in that space?
Yeah, that's completely what happened. And I think one thing that we're really not doing well is creating white space for our brain. Our brain needs time to reboot. Our brain needs quiet. It used to be if you were at a stoplight and it turned red, you didn't have anything else to do until it turned green, but just kind of sit there. You might be listening to music, you might
Right.
have whatever going on. Now our phones are right there. When we're waiting in line to check out at the grocery store, our phones are right there. So we don't have any of this pause time. We don't have any of this white space time. So when COVID hit, man, it was death by webinar. We didn't do a
Right.
whole lot with Zoom before then, but I could have listened to dental webinars about reopening our office, infection control, new regulations, PPP loans, 37 hours a day if I wanted to.
Hmm.
And so I knew that there was going to be a lot of noise and I needed to create some anti-noise, some quiet space.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's huge. And so since we're in that, what other habits or daily routines do you have right now throughout the years that you've implemented? What are your daily to-dos?
Yeah, so 30 minutes right now in this season is just a little bit more than what I can swing. So I'm
Yeah.
shooting for 15. And I'm
Nice.
shooting for 15 first thing in the morning. So it's not I roll out of bed and I'm right onto social media. It's that first fruits of the day, that first 15 minutes to just kind of let my brain kind of catch up with the start of the day before I get into everything else. So that's a huge one. I'm trying to journal as much as possible, even if it's just a few sentences each day about what I'm feeling, what I'm observing. I'm trying to practice gratitude as much as possible, being in the more we're in the present moment, the more gratitude flows. So those are a couple of the things. I'm also just trying to move a lot. I'm trying to get outside and move. It's We had a really mild winter in Iowa, so I was able to be outside more days than not. And the supplement industry is trying to come up with a pill that we can take
Mm.
that's better than 30 minutes of movement outside, and I don't think they're going to be able to crack it.
Yeah.
So it's just some of those simple things that I'm trying to do. They're not complicated, they're not new, they're not rocket science, but they are setting an intention to not just be controlled by our devices all day.
Yeah, that's huge. Do you have any new books coming up anytime soon, or what are the next things for you?
Yeah, I have a new book that's actually coming out April 12th,
Mm.
and it's called That Damn Analogy. So what it's all about is basically our bodies are like a dam. And what a dam does is basically for flood control, and water flows through it. There's a lake and then a river on the other side. So our goal as the dam is to regulate that flow of energy that goes through us. We're really good at the outflow part. We always have plenty of outflow. What we're terrible at is the inflow part. So it's just becoming aware of the problem of what we're doing and how we're not taking care of ourselves. Talks a lot about my burnout journey, but really there's some great strategies in there for how to fill up, how to refill to make it so we're not constantly running on empty.
Yeah, I love that. What kind of people do you work with when it comes down to your coaching business?
Yeah, so I work with high achievers. And I'm guessing most of the people that are listening to this podcast would label themselves as high achievers. If you don't want to label yourself as that, you're listening to a podcast to help you try to become a better version of yourself. Sorry, you're a high achiever. But I mostly work with people who are trying to figure out what's next in life. Maybe they don't know their purpose. Maybe they're stuck where they're at. And really what they need is some hope and a plan to move forward. So I meet people right where they're at. We figure out where they're at, we do some visioning exercises, talk about some hopes and dreams, and then we try to tailor a life that meets those goals. And ultimately, I want people to have hope and belief that good days are ahead. That's my goal.
I love that. And do you? I'm assuming that the coaching is it more tailored and specialized on a person by person basis in terms of the length or you know, is that how do you kind of do that?
Yeah, I usually work with people in 3-month increments.
Okay.
So we can start out at 3 months. We can extend it out, whatever works best. I have some people that are kind of on retainer with me that we've been working together for a couple of years, and they just want somebody for a monthly check-in. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to be that person.
Yeah.
And one of my coaching packages that I really, really like, it's a ton of fun. After we've been working together, we meet together in Park City, Utah, and do some experiential stuff that's super fun in the mountains out there too. So that's another
Yeah.
thing that we get to do every once in a while, and that's a ton of fun.
That's huge. Yeah, definitely enjoy that. You know, it's I like the fact that you're having that twist to that, because just as you're trying to help somebody with their vision and maybe trying to figure out what they're trying to do, or maybe go to the next level, or do any of that stuff, it's good that you're able to implement and help people to understand the balance, as you were talking about, that balance of being able to do these different things. And it is okay. You know, oftentimes we're working, you know, if you have a 9 to 5, and not that I'm knocking a 9 to 5, for those that have a 9 to 5, you know, oftentimes we're like, yeah, I'm just working enough so I can have enough, you know, whatever, a week or two for vacation, or I want to work in so I can retire. And I know for me, I was also burned out big time when I was at my 9 to 5. And one of the things that I realized is that rather than waiting for, you know, 2 or 3 years to go by so that I can accumulate enough time to take, you know, a couple of days of vacation, or rather than working a lot of hours so that I can retire, you know, whatever age, um, I've read this someplace, and it's like, what about you start taking, you know, mini vacations throughout your life? And those mini vacations could be, again, it could be a walk at the park over the weekend, you know, or going to a lake, or it doesn't have to be nothing expensive. It's not like going to Europe, you know, obviously you want to have those trips too, but it's not like you're going to do that every single month. It's taking small increments of mini vacations throughout your life, throughout your you know, the year, so that you can enjoy life and have that balance. Because at the end of the day, we are here today and we are gone tomorrow, and we don't know when it's going to be our last day. And so we're waiting for that moment. We're waiting for that day to get here. It may never get here. So why don't we enjoy that? And that's going to be not only serving us in many ways, is going to help our life in many different ways.
So I think what you said is brilliant, Cesar. And one of the things that I've been able to do in my dental practice is kind of do research on a lot of this stuff over the years. So I had a patient that told me when I started practicing, he said, man, 12 more years and I get to retire. And I said, okay, what are you going to do then? Well, then we're going to travel. And I said, well, how about now? Because I was 25 years old when I started practicing. I didn't know all this stuff.
Yep.
Said, so what are you doing in the meantime? Oh, we're just saving up money so we can travel. I said, well, don't you want to have some experiences before then? Nope, I got to get to retirement, and then we're going to travel. Well, unfortunately, his wife got sick right about the time when they were going to start traveling. They never got to do any of their traveling. And It really broke my heart. And I thought, okay, how can I communicate this to people? Because some people, that ultimate trip is a 2-week Alaska vacation. Let's call that like the ultimate trip that they're going to take someday. Well, how can we scale that to help meet our needs right now? Maybe I can't do the 2-week Alaska trip. Maybe I can do a 1-week trip to Montana, to Glacier National Park or something like that. It's not quite as long. Okay, I can't do that. Okay, can I go to the mountains for a weekend? Oh, okay, maybe I can do 4 days in the mountains. No, I can't do that. Okay, maybe I can do a day trip where I just go somewhere and stay overnight and have some fun with that. Okay, I don't even have that. Maybe I just have a few hours. What can I do in that time? So, how can we take, just like you talked about, those smaller moments of time and maximize those so that we get some more enjoyment out of life? Because if all we're doing is hanging, waiting for this carrot that's at the end of our work journey, man, we're not guaranteed that. We don't know that's ever going to come.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Where can people find out more about you and or connect with you about your coaching, your book, any of the stuff that you have going on?
Yeah, so home base for me is my website. It's just ericrecker.com. There's information in there about speaking, coaching, my books, and I did throw a couple freebies in there. There's I put out a newsletter. It's called 3 Ways to Win, and I give people three every other week. It comes out 3 ways to grab easy wins in your life, and then also a 5-day knockback burnout challenge. It's an easy way to raise your hand without anybody seeing it and say, "Hey, I think I'm feeling a little bit burned out. I want to see what the first couple steps I can take towards that are." You can grab that. It's just a series of a few emails, and it helps maybe be one step where you can start to push back that hold on burnout. I'm a very relational person. I would love to have a conversation. So if anybody's thinking about reaching out, I'd love to have a conversation.
Definitely, make sure we do that. In terms of the people that are listening to us and are watching us, if they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing or a couple of things that they can start doing to start overcoming that challenge?
Yeah, I like to think about life in terms of mountains because I've climbed a few. Mountains look really, really big. And sometimes we stay off them because they seem really, really big. But the only way I ever climbed those mountains was by taking one small but significant step. So I encourage people when they're facing challenges, don't look at the top, don't look at the summit of the mountain. Look at what's the first step I can take to get on the mountain to start working on that. And with every step you take, that summit is closer and closer. So the mountains look really big as long as we stay off them, but once we're on them, we're started. So what is one step that you can take? It doesn't have to be big, but it has to be significant. Take that first step.
Yeah, I like that. Little steps would definitely lead you to conquering that mountain, and that's probably the challenge, right? That's also part of the challenge, that we're in a place of fast pace, and we want to be able to get there yesterday. And you always
Yes.
hear that idea of the overnight success without realizing that there was a lot of steps in between. And as many people might think, and I think it's true, is sometimes it's not the destination, it's really the experiences and the lessons that you're learning throughout the journey, right? That's going to get you to that final destination.
Yeah. I get so sick of people talking about life as a marathon or a sprint because both of those are races. And I
Yeah.
don't want to race through life. I just don't. I think life is a quest, a journey. It's one of those things that should be this epic adventure. And if it's not, then we probably need to talk.
Yeah, no, definitely. Eric, again, thank you for being here. Really enjoy our conversation. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
Yeah, we're in a world right now that's short on hope. Negativity is everywhere, but there is a lot of reason for hope. There are a lot of good things going on. So don't just resign yourself to what's happening on your phone. Just we have a choice between faith, hope, and belief, or fear and doubt. And we will always have that choice, what we choose. So I hope that you can choose faith, hope, and belief.
I love that. Eric, again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you being on the show today. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor, please make sure that you share this message, because definitely somebody needs to hear it. And I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything Podcast Show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm CesarRespino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.